85 BC Earth's time. A jolt, then a piercing, crystalline ring assaulted Emery's ears as his eyes fluttered open. The sound, sharp as a struck bell, vibrated through his skull, only to dissolve into an abrupt silence. As it faded, the world coalesced. An impossible azure sky stretched above, and before him a castle of gargantuan proportions dominated the horizon. 15-year-old Emery stood utterly bewildered. This fortress, he realized with a gasp, dwarfed the royal seat of his own kingdom by at least tenfold. Beyond its sheer scale, its structure was unlike anything he'd ever witnessed, even in the most fantastical tomes of his father's library. Spiral towers connected to graceful arcs, seamlessly blending into other gleaming white stone edifices that seemed to emanate a faint inner light. Yet, the architecture wasn't the only anomaly. His gaze swept across the panoramic vista, encountering an uncounted multitude of young people, all appearing to be his age, marching in orderly rows toward a peculiar, towering structure in the distance. Emery found himself rooted not by choice, but by a sudden paralysis. The last thing he could recall was the scent of smoke, the roar of flames, the chilling silence of death. "Am I dead?" he murmured, a whisper lost in the vastness. "Father, where are you?" He was still lost in thought when a booming command shattered the air. "You move. Follow the line. Don't stop." Emery flinched, spinning around to face a man clad in armor, black and gold, interwoven with intricate, unfamiliar patterns. A winged helmet, leaving only a T-shaped slit for eyes, nose, and mouth, made the figure seem less human, more a formidable sentinel. Its luxury surpassed even the ceremonial regalia of his own king. I said, "Move." The voice roared again. Startled anew, Emery stumbled into motion, falling in behind the person directly ahead. "What is happening?" he muttered under his breath, a habit of his. A young man beside him, overhearing, turned. Emery twisted his neck, meeting the other boy's gaze. Confused, he pointed to himself. "Were you calling for me, Itaverote?" The boy cleared his throat, adjusting his words. "Are you Briton?" Emery recognized the ancient cadence of Latin, a language he'd dabbled in but never mastered enough for a conversation. Luckily, the boy shifted to Emery's tongue, though with a distinct, unfamiliar lilt. "You're the first to understand me," the brown-haired boy said, relief in his voice. "Do you know what happened or where we are?" I don't know," Emery confessed, shaking his head. Their march continued, and soon they stood before the colossal tower. Its apex seemed to pierce the very sky, its base a hive of activity. Thousands of figures in the same black and gold armor lined the entrance, while a sweeping, impossibly wide staircase ascended into the tower's depths. At the foot of these grand steps, a gathering of men and women in sober gray robes stood. From their midst, a long-bearded man, appearing the eldest, stepped forward. Though no larger than his own father, the old man radiated an aura that made Emery feel as though he gazed upon a titan. The elder struck his staff upon the stone, and a voice, resonant and clear, echoed directly within Emery's mind. "Welcome to the Magus Academy," the old man declared, his lips remaining still. A collective gasp rippled through the tens of thousands assembled, their eyes fixed on the silent speaker. The old man continued, "You are the chosen few from thousands of human worlds. Whether you seize this opportunity or let it slip, that choice is yours. You stand at Magus Academy, the zenith of humanity's ingenuity. Here, magic, science, and might are within reach for all who seek them." As his words resonated, the colossal purple tower behind him shimmered, bathing its facade in a soft inner glow. "For 7 days you shall be granted leave to study whatever your hearts desire. After this period, you will return to your respective worlds. If you prove worthy and meet our criteria, the Magus Academy will once more open its gates to you. Should you be deemed unfortunate, all memory of this place will vanish. Use your time wisely. I wish you all success." With a final flourish, the old man waved his staff. A searing heat erupted in Emery's left palm as if branded by hot iron. A circular symbol, bisected by a vertical line, pulsed into existence, and once again, the sharp ringing filled his head. Moments later, the burning subsided, and the ringing faded. Emery's ears perked, suddenly able to decipher the cacophony of languages surrounding him. Magus, a place of learning. Voice nearby exclaimed, "Am I dreaming?" Emery realized with a jolt that he understood every word, every distinct tongue. He was about to question the boy who had first spoken to him when a clear, feminine voice resonated directly in his mind. "Everyone, gather according to your class and world. Focus your mind on the symbol in your hand." A strange request, yet what harm could there be in trying? Emery concentrated on the mark on his palm. It pulsed with light, then words materialized before his inner eye. Male, 15 years old, planet 1002, Earth Magus Academy, Class 77. It truly felt like a dream. If this were the afterlife, surely his father would be here. But he wasn't. The only rational explanation remaining was that he was indeed dreaming. "Hey, you're Class 77 and Planet 1002 too." Julian, the brown-haired boy from earlier, reappeared at his side, his face alight. "Looks like we're from the same world. My name is Julian. What's yours? Emery. Julian, an air of innate nobility, clinging to his posture and his pristine white garments, wasted no time. He cupped his hands and shouted, his voice carrying surprising authority. Who else here is from planet 1000 to Earth? Emery felt an inexplicable sense of trust in Julian. Despite their shared predicament, the boy maintained an impressive composure. Emery found himself approving of Julian's initiative. Gathering those from their home world was a shrewd move, a way to pool their fragmented memories and make sense of their extraordinary situation. 3 more young people approached, having been standing nearby. First arrived a striking girl with dark, braided hair and sun-kissed skin. Next, another brown-haired boy, radiating an untamed, wild energy. Finally, a boy with keen, slanted eyes and long black hair tied in a bun joined them. All seemed to be of similar age, yet their varied appearances clearly marked them as hailing from distinct corners of the world. Might the beautiful lady grace us with her introduction first? Julian asked, bowing with a flourish. I am Clee, Alexandria, Miss. Ah, close to ours. Julian replied with a grin, then turned to the boy with slanted eyes. And you, my friend? I sense you are from the East, China, perhaps. The boy shook his head. Dongbueo. My name is Chumo. Wow, that's the easternmost reach of China, so far away. Emery recognized these names from the old parchments in the Royal Library. Julian's broad geographical knowledge hinted at a high noble lineage back in his own world. The last boy, though also young, possessed a distinctly muscular build. He stepped forward, confronting Julian. I'm Thrax, a Thracian. Julian, you're a Roman, aren't you? I am from Rome, Julian affirmed, holding his ground. Thrax took another step, narrowing the space between them. Roman pig, barbarian, Julian retorted, his earlier charm replaced by a sharp edge. The budding camaraderie evaporated, replaced by palpable tension, as Thrax and Julian locked gazes. Emery, observing from the periphery, felt an odd premonition. Despite their immediate differences, a strange sense suggested their fates were inextricably linked, destined for a journey together. He couldn't shake the feeling that these disparate youths were poised to become legends, the greatest magi their world had ever known. Emery's concentration was absolute as he meticulously fastened the final, intricately carved wooden figure atop the small box he had labored over 4 months. He had spent countless hours with their family scholar, preparing this gift for someone very special. A faint click echoed in the quiet room. Emery's eyes widened. He hadn't anticipated any sound. Cautiously, he lifted the delicate box, scanning for any dislodged pieces, but found none. He tilted it slightly, ready to catch the figurine, yet it remained steadfast. Slowly, he depressed a hidden lip, and the carved figure gracefully descended into the box, sealing it. He released it, and it rose again, a testament to its cunning mechanism. Phew, it worked. Emery exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. He blew out the candle beside him, its molten wax pooling thick on the table. Only then did he realize how late the night had grown. Lost in thoughts of the recipient, a wide grin spread across his face as he finally drifted to sleep. Emery's sleep was brief, yet he awoke precisely on time the following morning. He stretched, his body protesting, yearning for more rest. But the sight of the small, handcrafted box on his table brought an immediate smile. Today was a special day, her coming vogue ceremony. In the hallway, he nearly collided with his father, Geoffrey, the esteemed head of the Ambrose nobility. "Are you well, my boy? You look half asleep," Geoffrey inquired, his brows furrowed with concern. Yes, father," Emery mumbled, scratching his head. "I know you're excited for the princess's ceremony," Geoffrey said, reaching to ruffle Emery's hair. "But you must mind your health. You still need to practice, and we leave by noon." Emery ducked away from his father's calloused hand, a pout forming on his lips. "I'm not a child anymore, father." "Don't worry, I'll practice." "Ha ha, whatever you say, you'll always be my little boy," Geoffrey chuckled, pulling Emery into a firm embrace. Emery struggled, but his slender frame was no match for his father's strength. Resigned, he merely glared at Geoffrey's kind, wrinkled face until he was released. "Off you go now, my child." Each morning, Emery dedicated hours to sword practice with one of the family knights. Despite inheriting his late mother's frail constitution, his desire to train remained unyielding. He yearned to become a knight, to earn his father's pride. He slashed at the empty air with thin arms, but after only a few strikes, he was already gasping for breath, collapsing to the ground in exhaustion. Years of this routine had yielded frustratingly little improvement. "Young master, it's time for your lesson," the scholar announced, interrupting Emery's despair. Student and teacher made their way to the estate's library, a room overflowing with scrolls, parchments, and even a collection of herbs beside a simmering cauldron. Here, Emery immersed himself in studies, the scholar guiding him through ancient texts. He found this work infinitely more engaging than sword fighting. Lately, scrolls on crafting and architectural construction had captivated him, but his late mother's teachings on herbs and potion making remained his favorite subject. Beyond his daily practice and studies, Emery cherished his time in the woods during childhood. He loved identifying the plants and herbs his mother had documented, then experimenting with them. The forest was his sanctuary. Perhaps because his father's tales of his mother often connected her to nature, and Emery felt a similar kinship. He harbored no fear of wild beasts, sensing a strange camaraderie with the forest creatures, unlike the noble children who often bullied him. Once, his father had found him petting a wolf and chased the animal away, followed by days of stern lectures about the dangers of the wilds. Still, Emery secretly slipped into the woods whenever he craved peace and the embrace of nature. As noon approached, a surge of excitement propelled Emery to his feet. He took a quick lunch, washed, and donned his finest attire, a leather jerkin crafted from cowhide over a simple white linen garment. He wrinkled his nose at its faint, animalistic scent, but had no other choice. His other clothes were tattered, a stark contrast to the fragrant, opulent garments of higher-ranking nobles. Though the Ambroses were the lowest-ranking nobility, fifth among their peers, Emery never complained. He had a loving family, a comfortable home, and food on his table. With quick, eager steps, he retrieved the wooden box, tucking it carefully into a pouch before heading to the stables. The stable boy had already prepared the brown horses for him and his father. "This is it. All prepared," Emery whispered, double-checking his pouch. He couldn't wait to reach the Lioness estate, home of the kingdom's highest-ranking noble, and most importantly, to see Princess Gwen once more. The Lioness estate was a formidable sight. High wooden palisades encircled an elevated stone castle, a vibrant market bustling just beyond its walls. Commoners moved in and out, guards patrolled diligently, and the air buzzed with a liveliness utterly unlike his own family's quiet demesne. They soon arrived at the manor house itself, grander still due to the day's celebration. Crimson banners, adorned with gold trim, and the fearsome visage of a lion's head, draped its towering walls. The moment father and son dismounted, a condescending voice cut through the festive din. "Well, well, well, if it isn't the Ambroses," a portly, bearded man, resplendent in a luxurious coat, sneered at them. "Good evening, Phantomer," Geoffrey replied, offering a slight bow. Emery, still mesmerized by the castle's grandeur and the anticipation of seeing the princess, momentarily forgot his manners, failing to acknowledge the noble. Phantomer clicked his tongue in disdain. "A boy with no manners. You should teach him better, Ambrose." "Yes, my lord. Forgive him." "I will," Geoffrey responded, his voice laced with deference. Behind Phantomer stood another large boy, a head taller than Emery, looking to be the same age. "He's smelly, too." "Father," the heavy-set boy whined, pinching his nose. "Don't trouble yourself with such a low-born, Abe." Phantomer dismissed, waving a dismissive hand. "Come, my son, before their smell clings to us." Abe smirked, puffed out his chest with a look of smug pride, and then waddled away with his father. Emery feigned indifference, his gaze fixed on the retreating figures, but behind his back, his fists clenched tight. His father and he had been openly insulted, yet he could do nothing. Geoffrey had always drilled into him the imperative not to cause trouble in the presence of such high-ranking nobles. After all, the Phantomer family ranked second only to the king himself, serving as his right hand. Their statuses, though both noble, were worlds apart. A harsh reality Emery was intelligent enough to grasp. It wasn't long before other families began to arrive, some on horseback, others in grand carriages, converging at the castle's front gate. Soon they entered the castle one by one. The grand hallway was vast, draped with colorful fabrics. Its walls lined with hunting trophy swords, shields, bows, spears, testament to the king's passion. In the heart of the hall, a long table groaned under a lavish feast of milk, mutton, bread, cheese, soup, vegetables, and ales. The music of trumpets and cymbals filled the palace, and graceful dancers twirled, entertaining the mingling guests. Suddenly, a voice boomed, silencing the revelry. All eyes turned toward the source. All hail His Royal Majesty, the first of his name, the fearsome hunter, His Eminence, Richard the Lioness, and his daughter, the first of her name, Princess Gwyneth. The guests looked up to the main hall's grand stairs. King Richard appeared, cloaked in fur, a crown bearing the insignia of a standing lion gracing his head. His imposing presence, however, was immediately eclipsed by the stunning girl descending beside him. Her silky golden hair cascaded like a shimmering waterfall, while an emerald circlet highlighted her flawless cheeks, delicate nose, and perfect lips. A tight green gown flowed elegantly, accentuating her graceful figure. Emery stood transfixed, mouth agape, utterly captivated by the princess. Then he noticed it. Her gaze briefly met his. A sweet, fleeting smile touched her lips before she modestly lowered her eyes, watching her steps. Emery's heart leaped. He glanced left, right, behind him, utterly confused, but saw no one else. Had she truly smiled at hem asterisk? He scratched his head, his face burning. The atmosphere erupted into joyous clamor as guests raised their mugs, cheering for the princess's coming uvage. The feast began, lively music reverberating as the king took his throne. Princess Gwyneth stood beside him, and nobles began to form a line to offer their greetings. The line adhered strictly to rank, placing the ambroses at the very end. One after another, the nobles presented lavish gifts, jewels, necklaces, circlets. Abe Phantomer, particularly, offered a chest overflowing with gold and silver, eliciting gasps from the other guests. Yet, none of these extravagant offerings seemed to stir the princess. Until, that is, it was the Ambrose's turn. Emery and Geoffrey bowed before the king and princess. Emery stole a glance at Gwen. Her eyes seemed to brighten as he approached. He reached for the pouch dangling at his waist, his hand hovering, then stopped. Geoffrey, sensing his son's hesitation, intervened. "We apologize, Your Royal Majesty and Royal Princess, but we are unable to present a gift this time. We have endured a difficult year and possess nothing worthy of your royal presences. Such a poor excuse and a disgrace," Fentomer scoffed from the side. "It is fine, Fentomer," King Richard interjected, raising a hand. "You are forgiven. Rise and enjoy my daughter's special day. We are here, after all, to celebrate her 16th birthday." "All praise be to you, my king," Geoffrey said, bowing once more before leading Emery to the furthest corner of the long table. His father's presence was, above all, an act of respect to the king. Not long ago, Geoffrey had been a trusted confidant, but that was a past he preferred not to discuss. As the feast continued, Princess Gwen left her father's side to greet the nobles one by one, moving through the ranks, though her choice of whom to address remained her own. Emery ate his meal with a sullen expression. He had worked for months on his gift, but seeing the others' opulent offerings had filled him with shame. A small wooden figurine of the princess, what a laughable trifle in comparison. He looked up, watching her mingle, and again noticed her glance straying toward him. Finally, she concluded her conversation with another noble and began walking directly towards their corner. Emery's heart hammered as the beautiful girl, trailed by her handmaiden, approached. But from the shadows, Abe Fentomer, accompanied by his entourage, appeared, blocking her path. "Good evening, lovely princess," Abe simpered, bowing so deeply his plump belly wobbled. "If I may say, your beauty shines as wondrously as the stars through the night. Abe, how can I help you?" Gwen replied, her tone cool, her expression ignoring his clumsy flattery. Emery groaned internally at Abe's appearance. He couldn't be certain, given his dislike for the boy. But he felt a distinct shift in the princess's smile, a souring of her mood. Her golden hair, emerald eyes, and skin like polished ivory captivated all who beheld her, earning her the title of the kingdom's jewel. The following day marked her coming-of-age ceremony, a grand occasion that would draw numerous nobles to her father's castle. Which do you think becomes me more?" Gwen mused aloud, her emerald gaze flitting between the two gowns displayed on wooden mannequins. "You are exquisite in either, my lady," her handmaiden replied. A diplomatic answer that earned her a subtle, unseen eye roll from Gwen. The princess moved to stand beside the white gown. I believe this white one is perfect for me. Wouldn't you agree? Indeed, you would be stunning in white, my lady, affirmed a second handmaiden. A moment later, Gwen crossed to the other mannequin. On second thought, the gold might suit me better. It truly brings out my eyes, doesn't it? Absolutely, Your Highness, you are entirely correct. The first handmaiden agreed with a shallow curtsy, another meaningless platitude. It was always the same. Her questions about their opinions were invariably met with unreserved praise. No one, unlike her late mother, the Queen, ever dared to offer a genuine, unvarnished thought. Sighing, Gwen sank onto a cushioned seat, her gaze drifting to the portrait of her mother, the late Queen, adorning her dressing room wall. A soft bite to her lip betrayed a yearning for her mother's presence, especially with her 16th birthday, her coming voyage dawning tomorrow. Despite the throng of handmaidens and the anticipation of many visitors, a profound sense of loneliness settled upon her. A knock at the door, and a handmaiden admitted another, who delivered a message to Gwen. The princess shot out of her seat, racing towards the king's study. Inside, two men conversed. One was her father, the king, but it was the other she sought. With an exuberant cry of uncle, she launched herself at him. There she is, my beloved niece, Brett exclaimed, embracing her with equal fervor. Brett, the younger brother of Gwen's departed mother, defied the typical noble's sedentary life on their ancestral lands. Instead, he harbored an insatiable wanderlust, traversing the 7 kingdoms and venturing far beyond. While his journeys usually lasted months, this last expedition had spanned nearly 2 years. Oh, uncle, I've missed you so much, burst out, a torrent of questions following. Tell me of your grand adventures. What did us her questions abruptly ceased at the sharp cough from her father. Brett chuckled, a deep rumble. But for now, you must close your eyes. I've come for your special day tomorrow. Make no mistake, I haven't forgotten. Hold out your hands, he instructed. The moment she complied, something rough, yet unexpectedly light, settled into her palms. Her eyes flew open, sparkling at the sight of a coarse, tightly rolled parchment. Gwen carefully unrolled it, her gaze fixed on the intricate drawing within. Richard, the king, let out a weary sigh. Brother, you're spoiling her again. Her mischievous spirit is entirely your doing. Brett placed a fist over his heart. Forgive me, my king, but she is the last precious remembrance of the late queen. Gwen rotated the parchment, studying it from different angles, a dawning realization spreading across her face. Uncle, is this? She began, her voice hushed. Brett's smile widened. Indeed, smart girl. This is a world map. It was first conceived in Greek lands, but now nearly every place I've visited in what we call Europe utilizes it. Oh, uncle, what a magnificent gift! Thank you, Gwen exclaimed, pulling him into another fervent hug. This, she knew instantly, was one of the most treasured gifts she had ever received, far surpassing any fine gown or glittering jewel. Your father and I have matters to discuss, Brett said gently. I understand, uncle, but promise me you'll regale me with tales of your adventures later tonight. Gwen offered him a radiant smile and a graceful, ladylike curtsy before departing. That evening, Gwen hung on her uncle's every word, listening enthralled to his travelogues until sleep finally claimed her. Her dreams became vibrant tapestries woven from distant lands, unique dwellings. Upon waking, her mind remained consumed by these visions and her uncle's tales, overshadowing even the significance of her impending coming-of-age ceremony. A profound urge to discuss these newfound fascinations seized her, and as she prepared for the day, the image of a certain noble boy materialized in her thoughts. Yes, she murmured to herself, he's sure to be here today. The ceremony commenced. As Gwen descended the grand staircase at her father's side, her gaze immediately landed on a boy who, amidst the opulent finery of the assembled nobility, seemed almost a commoner. An impatient longing to approach him stirred within her, but duty held her fast, forcing her to content herself with stealing, surreptitious glances. With the formal greetings and gift-giving concluded, Gwen, accompanied by her handmaidens, began her arduous rounds of the remaining noble families. I trust you are all enjoying the festivities, she offered to the last family she engaged with, her eyes darting once more towards the boy before she added, please, excuse me, as she began to navigate the crowd towards him. Abe, the son of her father's advisor, stepped into her path, uttering words that made Gwen's brow subtly furrow. She had never cared for the boy, but respect for his family station prompted her to ask, Abe, how may I assist you? Your royal princess, I wished to. My apologies, Abe, but I cannot speak with you at this moment, Gwen interjected, her attention already drawn to the other boy who had started to move away. Gwen moved directly towards the boy, crying out, Emery. Without a moment's hesitation, she seized his arm and pulled him out of the bustling hall. This audacious act startled many nobles, none more so than young Abe, whom the princess had so pointedly dismissed for the commoner boy. They found themselves in the enchanting garden, bathed in the moon's ethereal glow and the distant shimmer of stars on the sea. The gentle roar of waves provided a rhythmic backdrop to Gwen's indescribable beauty, enhanced by the celestial light reflecting upon her. Emery found himself reluctant to release her smooth, soft hand. His heart pounding a furious rhythm against his ribs, as he gazed at the most captivating girl he had ever beheld. The approaching footsteps of handmaidens and guards prompted Gwen to release his hand. "Princess Gwen, Emery began, a note of concern in his voice. "We could be in trouble." "Oh, come now, Emery," she chided softly. "You needn't call me princess. We'll be perfectly fine." The ceremony is over, and I felt utterly suffocated in there. I desperately needed a breath of fresh air. "Please, will you accompany me?" Gwen remained oblivious to Emery's true trepidation, the scolding he was certain to receive from his father. Yet, how could he possibly refuse a direct request from the princess? And standing here, gazing at the kingdom's jewel bathed in moonlight, how could he ever bring himself to say no? "Just a moment, I have a surprise for you," Gwen announced, turning away. "Surprise? But I was going to—" Emery instinctively reached for his pouch, but Gwen was already engrossed. She quickly found what she sought. "Look at this, Emery." "Is this—" Emery's eyes widened, shining with recognition at the object she presented. "Exactly," Gwen beamed. "This land down here is Africa, and that one, far beyond, is China. It's just like the stories we've read from the old parchments." Emery and Gwen's acquaintance stretched back years. While other children of their age pursued riding and hunting, Emery was often found lost in books, devouring every parchment and scroll within his father's library. Thus, whenever his father had business at the lioness's castle, Emery would insist on accompanying him. It was within the vast, ancient shelves of the royal library that he often encountered Gwen, a shared sanctuary where they forged an unlikely friendship. Though their meetings were infrequent, their bond had quickly deepened, fueled by two significant commonalities: a profound love for learning, for the histories and mysteries of the world, and the shared tragedy of having lost their mothers in childhood. Much of this, however, was undeniably due to the princess's open and friendly nature. That night, under the shimmering moonlight, they conversed for nearly an hour, their voices hushed with wonder as they discussed the lands depicted on the map places they had only ever encountered in ancient tales. "I'm certain you can, princess. You are royalty. You can accomplish anything you desire," Emery declared. Unbeknownst to him, Gwen's fervent dream of exploring the world had, in that moment, seamlessly woven itself into his own aspirations, whether from his innate curiosity for the world's marvels or simply the desire to embark on such an adventure by her side. Gwen turned her radiant face to Emery, a wide smile gracing her lips. "That's truly sweet of you to say. Thank you." Her expression softened. "Thank you again. I feel so much better after talking with you." He harbored deeper feelings for her, yet he rationalized that being considered a friend by the kingdom's most beautiful princess was a privilege in itself. Perhaps, he mused, that was all they were ever meant to be. Then Emery remembered the gift he had labored over 4 months. He reluctantly reached into his pouch, his cheeks warming with embarrassment. "Gui, when I have something for you, too. ... What is it?" Gwen asked, tilting her head charmingly. Emery extended the pouch, then hesitated, almost pulling it back, and let out a nervous laugh. Why the hesitation? "Is it for me?" "Thank you." Gwen took it. "What sort of box is this, Emery?" Before Gwen could open the small box, footsteps grew nearer, halting their intimate moment. Ahem! A deep cough announced the approach of 2 men, one a large figure in a luxurious coat. "Father, Sir Fantomore," Gwen acknowledged. Emery's eyes widened in shock. The king stood beside him, accompanied by Fantomore, the kingdom's highest noble. "Your Highness." Emery gasped, dropping into a deep bow. The king regarded him. "Yes, my lord," Emery affirmed. "My daughter has spoken of you often." The corpulent noble, Fantomore, then interjected with a sneer. "Your Highness, I strongly suggest you prevent the princess from associating with this boy." The Ambrose family already occupied a low rung in the noble hierarchy. But Fantomore's blatant demand for the princess and king to sever ties with Emery was an egregious overstep. Gwen stamped her foot, her glare sharp as she confronted the portly noble, her voice laced with uncharacteristic steel. "Lord Fantomore, you may be my father's right hand, but you are far out of line in dictating whom I may or may not befriend." Fantomore's brow furrowed. This princess had ever been a thorn in his family's side. He shifted his attention to Emery. "Boy, raise your head. Let us see your face." Bolstered by Gwen's fierce defense, Emery lifted his chin, meeting Fantomore's gaze directly. A smirk twisted Fantomore's lips. The moonlight caught Emery's eyes, confirming the noble's suspicions. He hadn't been certain when he'd glimpsed the boy at the gate earlier, but now there was no doubt. "Do you see it, sire?" he probed. "The boy has his mother's eyes." "What do you mean, Fantomore?" Richard demanded. "You see, sire," Fantomore leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "he's a half-blood, a Fey Cruton." Richard roared, his gaze fixed on Emery's eyes. The Fey Cruton were a reclusive people inhabiting the deep, ancient forests of the Britons. Whispers claimed they communed with the mysterious fey creatures of the woodlands, living beyond the dominion and laws of the kingdom. For centuries, an enduring war had raged between the Fey Cruton and the people of the Linus kingdom. The kingdom's military had launched numerous campaigns to burn these forests, hoping to flush out the elusive Fey Cruton, but each attempt inexplicably failed, the flames refusing to spread. Consequently, a host of dark rumors had taken root, attributing to the Fey Cruton knowledge of black magic, witchcraft, and alliances with mythical beasts. Just then, another figure entered the garden. Geoffrey Ambrose, Emery's father. Without hesitation, he dropped to one knee before the king. "My liege, I proffer my deepest apologies for my son's behavior. I pray he has caused no offense. I shall ensure he is better disciplined." The king regarded Geoffrey with a complex, unreadable expression. "Is what Fantomer says true? That your late wife was a Cruton?" Geoffrey's reply came in a heavy, strained whisper. It is true, my king." The king's features hardened, his face darkening. Wrinkles etched themselves deeper, his fist clenched, and his mouth tightened into a grim line. The Crutons, he remembered, were the reason he had lost his beloved wife. He detested them with every fiber of his being. Emery saw the subtle shift in Gwen's expression, a dawning horror that mirrored the king's. He still didn't comprehend the gravity of the situation. Everyone else seemed to understand. "Gwen, come with me, now," Richard commanded, his voice cold. He then turned to the father and son, uttering a single venomous word. "Leave, father, I now." Richard roared, a fury Emery had never heard before. Gwen flinched, startled by her father's unprecedented outburst. She looked at Emery, her face a mask of complex emotions, and whispered, "I'm sorry. I don't think we can be friends." Richard seized Gwen's arm, causing her to drop the small box Emery had given her, and forcefully dragged her back towards the palace. Emery stood frozen, staring blankly at the shattered box and scattered figurine pieces on the ground. He bent to retrieve them, but a palace guard immediately blocked his path. Without ceremony, he and his father were escorted from the palace grounds. The towering wooden gate slammed shut behind them, sealing them out. Emery felt utterly adrift, gazing at the formidable barrier, his mind reeling. What had he done wrong? Why had the princess and the king looked at him with such revulsion? He sought answers from his father, but received only a weak, sorrowful smile. The journey home was steeped in an unbearable silence, a quiet torment that made Emery wish, more than anything, for a simple scolding. Back within the palace walls, Fantomer watched as the Ambrose father and son rode away into the night. A devious smile spread across his face, pleased that they had fallen so spectacularly from the king's favor. Yet, even this, he knew, was only the beginning of his machinations. Emery found his father in the main hall, still lost in drink. The goblet had been in Geoffrey's hand since noon, and now, as evening settled, his silent vigil continued, punctuated only by sips of alcohol. Approaching his father, Emery spoke, his voice barely a murmur. "Father, I am sorry." Geoffrey, slowly, almost dreamily, raised his head. "You're fine, my son. It wasn't your fault." "It never has been, if it wasn't my fault," Emery pressed. "Then, what happened?" Father? Please, tell me. Geoffrey's mouth opened, then closed, before he managed. It's nothing, my boy. I simply miss your mother, that's all. Father, I know there's more to it. I'm not a child anymore. For a moment, his father's gaze drifted, lost in thought, before he took another gulp of ale. All right, tomorrow. I'll tell you tomorrow. It's late now. You should get some sleep. Emery was about to insist when the distant, piercing cry of their battle horn echoed through the night. Father and son moved as one to the window, where the flickering light of torches revealed distant silhouettes marching closer. The great door to the main hall burst inward. A knight staggered in, shouting, "My lord! Marauders have come to." A sword ripped through the knight's chest. It was violently withdrawn, splattering blood across the stone floor as three cloaked marauders, their faces hidden by dark cloth, stormed in. "There they are, boys," the lead marauder roared. "Slaughter these Cruden-loving scum. Emery, hide." Geoffrey bellowed, drawing the heavy sword from his sheath. "No, I want to help," Emery protested. "No time for arguments. Do as I say." Geoffrey commanded, his blade already ringing against the steel of one marauder. As the other two attempted to flank him, Geoffrey shoved his initial assailant back, leaping clear of the twin attacks. A blur of steel and two heads tumbled onto the wooden floor. In mere seconds, his foes, comrades, lay dead. The remaining marauder recoiled, then bolted, fleeing into the night. Geoffrey had once been a high-ranking noble. Not through the intricate dance of court politics, but by the sheer force of his deeds. His pivotal contributions in major battles against rival kingdoms were legendary across the land, earning him the fearsome moniker, the Lion's Fang. Even after hours of drinking, his skill with a blade remained unrivaled. "Follow me," ordered his son, his voice tight. Now he roared again. "Hurry, it'll be dark soon. Keep your hand on the wall and walk straight. At the passage's end, you'll find a ladder to the stables. Take a horse, ride west, and follow the river. You'll be safe there." "What about you?" Emery asked. "I'll hold them here, ensure no one follows. Once I'm certain the way is clear, I'll find over here." A voice shouted from the darkness. Shuffling footsteps rapidly approached. Geoffrey cut himself off, then whispered, pushing a torch into Emery's hand. "You are my world, my son. Grow up strong. Go, now." Emery's protest was cut short as his father shoved him behind a heavy, closing cupboard. He scrambled up, finding a narrow slit in the wood, a broken crack he could peer through. He pressed his eye to it, watching as dozens of marauders flooded into the cellar. "Where's your boy, Cruden lover?" demanded the same marauder who had fled, now returned with reinforcements. You'll never find him. Enough talk. Show me what you've got," Geoffrey declared, his steel sword glinting. "Kill him," the marauder commanded. Emery watched, horrified, as his father fought with unmatched ferocity. Marauders fell one by one, yet their numbers seemed endless. Slowly, Geoffrey's breath grew ragged, and he dropped to one knee. The first marauder seized the opening, sneaking behind him to deliver a brutal slash across Geoffrey's back. Geoffrey crumpled to the dusty ground, struggling to rise. The marauder stomped on his back, pinning him. Emery stifled his scream, clamping his hands over his mouth. Tears welled, blurring his vision as he witnessed his father's defeat. The marauder twisted his head, his smirk chilling as his eyes fixed on the cupboard. Geoffrey's eyes widened. His son was still here. With a final surge of strength, he surged upward, throwing the marauder off balance. Tightening his grip on his sword, Geoffrey impaled the man against the stone wall. "Run," he bellowed, pouring all his remaining life into the cry, before multiple swords pierced his back. Still alive, blood coating his lips, chest, and back, he swung his sword one last time, hitting nothing but air. Geoffrey whispered, "Run." Finally, Geoffrey collapsed, unmoving, to the ground. Emery froze, paralyzed by shock. His father's last command, "Run," finally broke through his daze. He ran, up the ladder, through the stable doors, but all the horses lay dead. The crackling flames, the clang of swords, the screams of his people, they echoed everywhere, in the place he had always called home. He glanced back at their house, a roaring inferno consuming everything it touched. Then, as his father had instructed, he ran west towards the forest. But as soon as he entered the tree line, the thundering sound of galloping horses reached him. One of the marauders had seen Emery from afar and given chase. He kept running towards the river, but his legs, weak from terror and exertion, gave out. He tripped on a tree root, tumbling down into the icy water. He thrashed, struggling to stay afloat, inadvertently swallowing mouthfuls of the frigid current. Each breath became a searing agony, needles piercing his lungs. Two marauders, having caught up, dismounted their horses. They watched Emery drown in the river's powerful flow. "Let's leave him," one said. "The boy won't survive this freezing river." "Shouldn't we at least confirm it?" the other asked. "Are you daft? Can't you see the current's strength? If he doesn't drown, he'll freeze. Either way, he's dead." "All right, whatever you say," the two marauders remounted and rode off. Emery sank, powerless, against the relentless current. The river swept him along until it emptied into a still lake. His heart hammered against his ribs. His lungs felt ready to explode. He wished for anything, anyone, to save him. Slowly, his struggles ceased, consciousness fading as he descended to the bottom of the lake. Is this the end? He didn't notice a vine, sinuous and green, snaking its way towards him. It wrapped around his leg, pulling him steadily back to land. Seconds later, he coughed violently, expelling the swallowed water. He had no idea how he had survived. He crawled onto the muddy bank, collapsing. Lying there, he gazed up at the night sky, every part of his body aching, shivering uncontrollably. His vision blurred, yet his eyes fixed once more on the 3 stars aligned in a perfect row. He whispered a desperate wish to them. "Please, save me. I don't want to die, Father." Emery fought to keep his eyes open, but an overwhelming weight dragged them shut. Cold and dying, he could resist no longer. Then, as if answering his plea, the central star among the 3 blazed brightly. A ray of light descended, touching Emery's frail body, making him float for a brief moment before vanishing. Emery pondered the cryptic meaning of that sentence. He was torn, unsure if he truly wanted to go back. After all, what was left to draw him there? His father was dead, his ancestral home burned to ashes, and even the princess who had denied them even friendship. Perhaps revenge against the marauders. But what power did he, weak and frail as he was, possess to defeat them? Every justification he conjured to return was swiftly contradicted by another. For now, he simply followed the group of young people ahead of him. Julian and Thrax continued to exchange silent, hostile stares, while Chumo remained quiet, his suspicious gaze sweeping over everything around them. Then, a beautiful woman intruded upon Emery's vision and thoughts. "Hello, you, Emery, right?" the bronze-skinned girl asked, her voice sweet. She added, "I hope you're different from that boy trying to pick a fight." Emery startled, taking a slight step back. She was too close. He quickly composed himself, studying the young lady. Unconsciously, he compared her to Gwen. Gwen had been like an ember to Emery warm. Something he couldn't quite touch, but could approach without getting burned. This girl, Clee, felt like an all-consuming fire. She was young, their age, but her dark hair, large round eyes, accentuated with black eyeliner, and attire that showcased her curvaceous brown body, sent Emery's heart pounding. She was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen, possessing a unique, womanly allure that Gwen did not yet have. Clee gracefully crossed her arms. "I'm surprised you aren't more excited." "Excited? What do you mean?" Emery asked, confused. "We are in a mystical place." Clee pointed upward. "Look up their floating islands and houses in the sky. They couldn't compare to the pyramids our mighty pharaohs built." Emery followed her gaze and fell into deep thought. She was right. How had he not noticed before? He stood in awe, mesmerized by the magical landscape unfolding around him. Emery. Hello. Are you there, Emery? Emery shook his head, asking mindlessly, Yes. Clee placed her hands on her hips, leaning her face closer to his. Emery could smell the wonderful fragrance emanating from her body, his eyes drawn to the smooth curves that were the pride of women. His face flushed. Emery, do you think I'm beautiful? If that's the case, then listen when a beautiful woman is talking to you. Understood, Clee declared, her tone sharp yet melodic to his ears. Emery had no choice but to nod vigorously. Clee was about to continue her lecture when their line suddenly halted. Both looked ahead. All who are in class 77 enter through this portal, announced a man in black and gold armor. Portal was a term Emery hadn't heard before. However, based on what he had witnessed, this portal functioned like a door, though it appeared to be woven from wind and light. It was a shining, circular opening with nothing visible behind it. Emery, that's our class, Clee exclaimed, utterly fearless of the unknown. She grabbed his hand, dragging him toward the glowing circle. Wait. He tried to protest, but her soft hand held him fast. The boy and girl stepped through the portal, and their surroundings instantly transformed. They now stood in a space of white tiles, white walls, and golden pillars arranged in perfect symmetry. Its elegance surpassed even the lioness's grand throne room. The room featured a central platform with rows of tiered desks forming a semicircle, all facing the platform. Others, appearing to be their age, were already seated. At the front platform stood a woman in a pointy hat matching her purple dress. It was a unique sight for most, save for Julian, who seemed familiar with such places. He confidently led the other four to the front row, where another group of boys and girls was seated, pointing to his own chest. You don't belong here, lower world citizens. Sit in the back, in the corner. Julian remained silent, though unshaken. He simply regarded the black-haired boy in the black and white uniform. Thrax, however, pushed past Julian, shouting, What do you mean, lower world? Are you looking for a fight? He clenched his fist, and the other boys and girls in uniforms rose, ready for a confrontation. Julian, still composed, touched Thrax's shoulder, blocking him. He then offered a smile. Sorry. I understand. We'll sit in the back. He turned, pulling Thrax with him, and nodded at Chumo, Emery, and Clee. They followed. After taking their seats, Thrax crossed his arms, spat on the floor, and muttered, Roman pig, coward, stupid, barbarian. Use your brains, not your muscles, Julian replied, unconcerned. Thrax understood Julian's meaning, of course. They were in an unfamiliar place with unfamiliar people. Thrax detested that boy in the black and white uniform. Even in a different world, it was the same story-class distinctions, status, privileged people everywhere. Emery made a mental note about the 4 individuals he'd been interacting with. Julian, Thrax, and Klee possessed outgoing personalities, while Chumo remained a mystery. Indeed, since the beginning, Chumo had offered nothing but knowing glances and his name and city of origin. The portal closed, and shortly after, the woman in purple clapped her hands. The sound resonated throughout the room. She began to speak. "It seems everyone is here. Let me welcome all of you, the 100 new acolytes of Class 77. You may call me Minerva, and I will be your guide for the next 7 days. Listen to my instructions, and if you are lucky, perhaps a few of you can become a spirit magus." Spirit magus. Magus. What do you mean by magus? A random boy asked. Minerva raised one hand, and the air around the entire room stirred. Trails of wind converged around her hand, forming a large, visible sphere of spinning air above her palm. Wind was not typically visible, yet there it was. She calmly explained, "Magus, sorcerer, witch, magician, wizard, shaman, warlock, element weaver, etc. These are all different terms from different worlds, but they all refer to the same thing: people who possess the talent to wield the universe's primordial energy. There are trillions of people across our galaxy, but only hundreds of thousands have the ability to command such power. And as you can all see, I am wielding the wind's energy." Almost everyone watched, eyes wide and mouths agape in disbelief. For many, this was the first time they had witnessed such a spectacle. Minerva clasped her hand, and the wind lightly exploded, dispersing back to its natural state. She smirked, a hint of amusement in her eyes as she surveyed the wide-eyed reactions of the young boys and girls. "I wonder," she asked, "have any of you seen magic performed before?" Less than a third of them raised their hands, including Klee. "Klee, you as well," Julian exclaimed, surprised. Klee lowered her hand and crossed her arms. "Of course. The priests in our court sometimes conduct rituals for a fruitful year, making it rain or causing the Nile to flood. On special occasions, they even perform by turning staves into snakes." Her elegance, her occasional arrogance, the way she referred to her people Emery, had noticed it all and couldn't help but conclude she came from a noble background. Minerva nodded, then asked another question. "Next, who among you is already capable of handling the universe's energy?" This time, far fewer hands went up, perhaps 1 or 2 out of every 10. In fact, most of them belonged to the arrogant boys and girls in the black and white uniforms seated in the front. Emery wanted to know if there were others capable of magic. He spotted another in the corner opposite them. With his keen eyesight, he could make out her features. Long black hair peeked from beneath a large, dark veil. Her pale skin was almost as white as the dress she wore. As Emery stared, her veil subtly shifted in his direction. A chill ran down his spine, compelling him to look away, turning his attention back to Minerva. The room darkened, and her bracelet projected an image into the center of the space. At its core, a large sphere floated, with 4 spiraling tails extending towards the edge of the image. Between the tails, countless tiny, shimmering dots of different colors blew. White, yellow, orange, red, and varying sizes glowed. Minerva pointed her wrist at the group of young people, and the floating image zoomed in, focusing on a green and blue sphere. She spoke with an unimpressed tone. "World 0623, Kalios. So all of you came from a Magus world. I suppose it isn't surprising that 18 people from your world were chosen." She flicked her wrist, and the floating sphere vanished. Minerva continued, "Our galaxy contains hundreds of thousands of human worlds. Every year, 10,000 talented young people are selected from 1,000 lucky worlds. Since there were hundreds of thousands of worlds, it typically took centuries for a world to be reselected. Of course, some worlds received special treatment, such as Kalios. Human worlds were categorized into 3 classes: lower-class worlds, which had not yet harnessed the power of nature; middle-class worlds, which utilized metals, water, and earth to human advantage, akin to an industrial age; and lastly, upper-class worlds, where great inventions like harnessing electricity had been made, similar to those who had reached the modern or even a Magus era. Kalios belonged to the upper-class worlds. At least 10 people were selected from upper-class worlds, and these worlds received the opportunity once every 5 years. Emery listened intently to Minerva's explanation. He couldn't help but think that perhaps those arrogant boys and girls had a right to their haughty demeanor. Julian commented, "Our world is so vast, yet only 5 of us were chosen. It seems our world is selected only once every tens or hundreds of years. We must be incredibly lucky." Minerva continued her explanation. "Since first-year acolytes only have 7 days of study, it is imperative that you all apply yourselves diligently. This may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you, and perhaps for your world. Do not waste the chance we are giving you." Emery felt a surge of gladness at the prospect of learning this skill called magic. Studying was his forte, and he always enjoyed learning new things. "Now that we've settled that," Minerva said, "the first step in becoming a Magus is to know yourself." She flicked her finger, and another round object appeared. "I need everyone to stand up and wait for this crystal ball to fly over your head. Let's see how many talented children we have this year." Minerva smiled, awaiting the 100 young people to stand and follow her instructions. That smile, however, made Emery and the others distinctly uncomfortable. Scan, complete, yellow, Earth's affinity. The orb's voice startled nearly everyone. A collective gasp of bewilderment swept through the class. How could a mere object articulate words? Minerva offered no explanation, simply allowing the crystal sphere to drift towards its next subject. A mysterious young girl, cloaked in a large veil, her long hair peeking from its edges, revealing skin as white as snow. In short order, the orb pulsed with a green light. Scan, complete, green, plant affinity. Murmurs rippled among those who still struggled to comprehend. Minerva then began her explanation as the crystal orb floated idly. Many of you are undoubtedly curious. Allow me to clarify. In its infancy, the entire cosmos was naught but an expanse of utter darkness. From this primordial void, gods and goddesses arose. However, these divine beings were divided in their ambitions. Some yearned to imbue worlds with life, while others sought eternal emptiness. A conflict between them was inevitable, and, indeed, it erupted. Eons have since passed, and the divine war concluded. The proponents of life naturally prevailed. The primordial energies unleashed during this titanic struggle birthed countless galaxies, one of which is our own. These energies are what we call the 10 elements. The 10 elements are primarily divided into 4 core elements: fire, wind, water, and earth. The 4 subelements are lightning, ice, plant, and metal. These 8 are the most prevalent throughout the universe, but the final 2 elements are the very ties that bind everything together, and they are also the rarest to manifest in an individual: darkness and light. No sooner had Minerva finished speaking than the crystal ball, now hovering over a bald, modestly clad boy, shimmered white. Scan complete. White, light affinity. Minerva's cheeks flushed faintly, whether from excitement or embarrassment. Only she knew. As I mentioned, she mused, it is quite rare for us to welcome an acolyte with light or dark elements each year. The crystal sphere continued its random selection, eventually returning to the group of youths from Kalios, a world steeped in magic. Another young boy from their cohort was scanned, and the crystal glowed red before splitting its hue, half turning purple. Scan complete. Red and purple. Dual affinity. Fire and wind, possessing multiple elemental affinities, is akin to wielding a double-edged sword. Minerva remarked to the young boy, whose initial smug expression remained. It is both fortune and curse. Several minutes elapsed, and the crystal orb was nearing the completion of its scans. The 18 youths from Kalios predominantly exhibited single elemental affinities, yet 5 among them boasted dual elements. Soon after, the crystal ball drifted towards Emery's group, the last to be scanned. It first approached Julian, projecting its beam. The orb turned yellow before splitting, displaying a vivid red alongside it. Yellow and red, dual affinity. Earth and fire. Julian let out a satisfied whistle, a smile playing on his lips. Thrax was next. Red, fire, affinity. Julian's half-smile lingered as he watched Thrax vehemently argue with the crystal orb, questioning why his elemental affinity was inferior to the Roman pig. But Julian's cheeky grin transformed into awe as the crystal divided itself into 3 distinct colors above Klee. Scan, complete, purple, blue, and indigo. Triple affinity, wind, water, and lightning. Among the 100 youths in this class, you are, so far, the only acolyte to exhibit 3 elements, Minerva commented, a knowing glint in her eyes. A slight uproar erupted in the class, faces registering admiration, particularly among the boys. Indeed, many recognize the rarity of a triple affinity, especially in such a beautiful, alluring, bronze-skinned woman. The other girls' expressions, however, conveyed a different story, reflecting the sheer uncommonness of such a feat. Truly an extraordinary lady. Julian exclaimed. It was nothing much, Klee replied, casually flicking her hair. Congratulations, Klee, Emery offered with a grin. Thank you, cutie, Klee responded, winking. Next, the crystal moved to Chumo, displaying a singular color. Black, darkness, affinity. Emery had no time to congratulate Chumo on such a rare element, for he was momentarily blinded by a sudden, intense light ray emanating from the crystal ball. He closed his eyes, a tremor of apprehension running through him, dreading what he was about to hear and see. All his life, Emery had felt a stranger to success. Expectations for him were always low, even from his father, who had forever treated him like a child. He had never felt special, never the protagonist of the grand tales he devoured in his father's library. The crystal ball shone brightly, then darkened, and finally became eerily transparent. A profound silence descended. While a typical scan required only a few seconds, this one stretched on an unnervingly prolonged wait. Emery slowly opened his eyes, gazing at the transparent orb. He sighed. It was just as he'd feared. He was nothing unremarkable. But then, why was he even here? Had some entity made a mistake? He was about to return to his seat when Klee softly uttered his name. Scan complete. The crystal ball glowed blue, signifying a water affinity. Emery's heart gave a faint leap. Perhaps he was special, after all. But then the crystal sphere halved itself, revealing another color. Yellow, green, yellow, earth affinity, and then a third color, green, plant affinity. Emery felt the weight of everyone's eyes upon him, his breath growing shallow. He wanted nothing more than to lower his head and vanish beneath his desk. This was the first time he had commanded such singular attention, and it felt suffocating. Then, gasps from the others pricked his ears. He had kept his eyes fixed on the floor, but he looked up at them before casting his gaze back to the crystal ball. He was as stunned as they were. Blue, yellow, green, and black. Quadruple affinity. Water, earth, plant, and darkness. A quadruple acolyte. Only one in every 1,000 acolytes achieved this. Minerva exclaimed, a faint smile gracing her lips. She glided towards Emery. "What is your name, boy?" "Hakim," he stuttered. Minerva recalled the crystal ball, as everyone had now been scanned. "You had better apply yourself diligently, boy. It appears we are done, but do not grow overconfident just yet. Merely having an affinity for an element is insufficient. Next, we shall assess your aptitude." Affinity, however, was akin to a heavily sealed gate, beyond which lay countless potentials. One required the strength to force open that ponderous gate and the aptitude to comprehend what its other side had to offer. Hence, the second test Minerva had prepared was designed to examine each student's battle power and aptitude. This time, she summoned a glowing symbol shaped like an eye and instructed everyone to approach. One by one, each of you will step into the eye of power. Who wishes to be first? The bald youth with the light affinity stepped forward without hesitation. A few seconds after he entered the circle, it illuminated, and numbers emblazoned themselves upon the symbol. Battle power, 10 spirit power, 25 spirit aptitude, rank A. "Everyone, proceed, as I explain," Minerva instructed. Battle power measures one's physical strength. A score of 10 is typical for an average adult human. For young individuals to achieve this number signifies rigorous training, unlocking their physical potential to a degree where they can contend on equal terms with an adult, despite their youth. Battle power is determined by a combination of strength, speed, and endurance. Meanwhile, spirit power is the gauge of one's talent in weaving the elemental energies of the universe. It is assessed across 3 categories: spirit strength, spirit control, and spirit capacity. Increasing your spirit power will be your primary objective, and it will not be an easy task. Only upon breaking through a spirit power of 30 will any of you be capable of utilizing basic elements and attaining the rank of a tier to acolyte.